old news. But who knows? Maybe there's someone interested in hearing this. Maybe it might be news for them. Although I've always known some of these states existed prior to the creation of the United States, because of course for states to be united they had to first exist, so it makes sense. But one thing that kind of shocked me was when I was looking into certain sequence of engagement, shall I say, and it was mentioning how some descendants of the Incas and Mayas were having this feudal engagement and interaction with certain members of other hegemony. And this was back in the 1400s and it spanned all the way to the 1600s. And a thought came up in my mind, and of course it had been occurring way before then. And then the internal feud and things of that nature. Ultimately, it all comes down to brothers fighting brothers and sisters feuding against one another. But nonetheless, regarding the time period, a thought came in my mind to look at the years of these state constitutions. I had always known that okay, for them to come and unite, whether all of them agreed or not, because a lot of them didn't agree to one, they didn't even want to come together. Nonetheless, they did. But in order for them to do so, then a state has to be basically a constitution is what establishes a state. It's the first rules and regulation that other rules and regulations are built upon, if there did not exist prior treaty. And interesting enough, in the process of me looking for the years of the earlier constitution of these states, which in this specific subject matter, the state is South Carolina. The earliest constitution they had was in the 1600s. I stumbled upon a picture, a very interesting picture, an image, and it basically depicts something most people are in denial of. You would loosely hear people say something about people who appear a certain way were part of the government, or some would even say they in fact ran the government, right? And other general consensus would have you think otherwise, because well, it's cool, your social studies, if they even still have social studies, your social studies and your geography teacher will tell you, well, especially social studies, they will tell you, oh well, these presidents begin during this certain time. These are list of presidents we've had. They rarely speak of the state level, and when they do, it's quite vague for a very good reason. Here at South Carolina, an image tells you more than 1,000 words. And what's even more shocking are the words that came right after it. By the way, this word radical, looking at Merriam-Webster's 1828 dictionary, if used as an adjective, which I would presume that was the intent, it's an adjective that is used to describe these members that they're making reference to and describing later on here. So as an adjective, it means of relating to or proceeding from a root of, or growing from the root of a plant, growing from the base of a stem or root-like stem from the stem that does not rise above the ground, meaning the substance, the foundation, the root, the base of it. So when in terms of linguistic, it refers to root, meaning with words, it's the root or essence of things. It's fundamental of relating to origin, So when we usually hear this word, we think, oh, some crazy guys doing something that's off the wall. It could be. It could very well, in fact, be. But the initial definitions tell you it's of something substance. Then the territory, the third definition tells you very different from the usual or tradition. Meaning, but then it goes to tell you extreme. Okay? Favoring extreme change in existing views, habits, conditions, or institutions. In this case, we will say body politics of South Carolina. Associated with political views, practices, and policies of extreme change. Then if used as noun, a root part, the basic principle, the foundation. One who is radical, aka extreme. Right? But extreme for what cause? That's the question. What is extreme? When you begin to read, South Carolina, when you look at their map, not map, the flag, you look at the symbolism in it, the color, and what a palm tree stands for, and the crescent moon, and the fact that whether it's waning or waxing, it starts to tell you a lot. That flag serves as a roadmap that leads to the intent. And when certain things are the intent of the creation of that body politic, South Carolina, and when certain words like radical are used, which in most people's mind is perceived as extreme, of course, but in truth, it's actually telling you it's the root, the foundation, the substance of it. You've seen this word roots, the base of it, the origin, fundamental. It tells you the fundamental members, the root members of the South Carolina Legislature, SOCA, really. These are the photographs of 63 members of the reconstructed South Carolina Legislature. 50 of whom are Negroes or Mulattos, and 13 whites. 50 out of 63 of them are Negroes or Mulattos. What in the ultimate fuck during 1866 or during this time period were Negroes doing as the majority within the legislative body of a country in South Carolina? 22 read, and this is the gray area that I think may confuse a lot of people, besides the misrepresentation of being a Negro. 22 read and write. Then it puts in brackets 8 grammatically. The remainder of 41 of the total members make their mark with the aid of an amanuensis. 19 are taxpayers. 19 of these 63 are taxpayers. 13 of them are white. Reading between the lines here. 19 of them are taxpayers to an aggregated amount of $146.10. The rest, 44, which is majority of those who are Negroes and Mulattoes, pay no taxes. And the body levies on the white people of the state for 4 million. Okay, we'll just leave that part be. So 50 of the members of the state of South Carolina legislature make up the majority for Negroes or Mulattoes. Just a little food for thought. How if supposedly this dark-toned men, referred to as Negros and Mulatto, is supposedly they were illiterates and of a lesser status. How are they members of a legislature? The legislative department is what makes the law that everyone in the state is bound by. So long as you're a member of that state then you're bound by it. Simple as that. That body politic. In order for you to be in a legislative department, of course, you must have social political power and influence, let alone be the majority. Quite interesting, isn't it? Quite interesting. And it's much easier for a dispute to exist if you show people certain image and depictions, paintings, statues, etc. from 1200s, 1400s, etc. But when you show things from Smithsonian Institution, basically depicts these things and says these things, one ought to at least think twice about it. Put it into consideration.